Yeah, kid! Welcome everybody back to another episode of the Handsome Homebuyer Podcast. I am your host, Charles, aka the Handsome Homebuyer, aka Captain Permit, aka
El Judío Maravilloso.
For my gringo friends, that means the Marvelous Jew. All right? You know who else is marvelous? Speaking of marvelous things, Captain Permit. 516-513-8838. If you need permits, if you need plans, if you need anything, especially apparently in the town of North Hempstead, which I'm having a little bit of a problem right now, but it's going to be all okay. You need Captain Permit. If you're a realtor, if you're a mortgage broker, if you're a stockbroker, if you have a house, own a house, drove past a house, ever want to buy a house or a commercial building, you need to know the Captain, 516-8838. And if you have a house that smells like cat pee, has been dated from the 1960s, has 6 inches of mold on the wall, human waste running past the basement steps, land for development, you name it, real estate related, I'm easy, I'm low maintenance, I want to buy it. 516-777 sold. All right, a lot of great things working in the land of Handsome today. Got a 5-unit apartment building deal we just signed up this week. Getting very close on our built-to-suit commercial space in North Massapequa, working the healthcare angle. Very, very close. Signed the biggest commercial development deal of my life. Gonna be featured a little taste on the vlog today. Last week, and we got a ton of stuff in the pipeline. I'm super pumped about today's guest, right? I don't really know today's guest really well, but I see what he's doing on social media, and I fucking love it, right? This is no secret. I've been actually talking about this a lot in the last 2-3 weeks. Brokerage, huge. I feel in general in the brokerage community, there's a huge opportunity there,
sure.
Right? I feel like the majority of the brokers are not servicing their people the way they should. And that's when I see what you're doing. I'm like, here is a guy that is shattering the status quo, trying to make a difference, trying to offer to everybody, his clients, his agents, the world, what they've been lacking in the industry. So with that said, I'm going to introduce the man, the myth, my new friend, the self-proclaimed and proclaimed legend, JAYSON SIANO.
Yes, sir.
Sabre Realty, Sabre Life.
That's right. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm glad that we were able to make this happen, man.
Have you ever had an intro like that?
I absolutely have not. I'm still in awe.
Nice.
Yeah.
You can be honest. I'm looking for the honest feedback.
No. What I mean is, listen, I'm it's important to make noise, right?
Yeah.
That's what I do, and that's why I am where I am. I'm in the business now 18 years.
Nice.
So it's not, nothing that's led up to where I am today is by accident.
Nah.
So everything that I just witnessed is right up my alley. So
awesome.
Love that. Kudos to you also for being able to do that in front of me where, I don't think a lot of people would have the balls, to be honest, to just do what you just did. So I respect that majorly.
I appreciate that. I think in the line of, I guess when you're being built, wherever we're being built, I think there was maybe there was a glitch or the filter person, the person that inserts the filter in you.
Yes.
Took a break or went to the bathroom or something because I'm missing it.
Love that.
Just whatever's there is there. So I want to kind of
I love that, but that could be a problem in brokerage. But continue.
Yeah, I guess in everything in life, you have it's a delicate balance,
exactly.
Right? It's I guess with real estate, with everything, it's much an art as it is a science.
Yeah, but you have to, you have to be able to contain yourself.
Yeah.
To do what I do. There are plenty of times that I just want to tell people to go fuck themselves. I mean, quite honestly.
Yeah.
But if I did, I would be a lot less successful. Nowadays, though, based on kind of where I am, I can pick and choose who I want to do business with, which is nice.
Which is an awesome feeling, isn't it?
It's an amazing feeling, and it's an accomplishment, But having said that, you can't always tell people exactly what you're thinking. I have an inside voice, you know what I mean? So I don't say everything I'm thinking because I like, obviously doing business.
Have you ever had one of those moments where you said something and then you said to yourself, or even out loud, did I just say that out loud? Or was that you're oh, inside voice, but it just comes out and you're shit, I didn't mean to say that out loud?
No, because I've learned to really, focus on I'm very self-aware. I understand my surroundings. I'm very good at understanding people. So I can adapt really well to my environment, which I think is part of why I'm really good at what I do. Because I think that I have a lot of different superpowers, and I lean on specific ones depending on my surroundings.
What's your favorite superpower?
The fact that I don't quit. So,
Nice.
yeah.
I'm with that.
Yeah, so I don't stop until the job is done, and
probably
still don't stop after that.
I was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, what is it about my personality that's me, that is my quote unquote superpower? Interesting you brought it up, and I'm like, mine is like, I have this delusional vision, this delusional quality where I can like envision things that I want to happen so far in the future, like I can see them, like I can touch them. Mm-hmm. Like right now, the private equity fund I want to open is like, it's right behind your shoulder. Like I can just reach over and touch it. So I think it's very important, like, for people to have those and focus on your strengths.
Well, that's like quantum, right? If it already happened essentially, and then you're just
everybody else
catching up to that. Yeah, exactly. Which I subscribe to the same thing. I'm such a blind optimist. Mm-hmm. Thank God it works for me, because again, I'm willing to put in the work, and I'm intelligent enough to know what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are, and I surround myself with people that are good at my weaknesses, or the shit I might be strong at it, but I might not want to do it.
Or you don't have the time because you can't be everywhere.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, and that's what, like, it's interesting you said I don't quit, because when the interesting thing about social media is, like when I said in the intro, I'm like, I don't know you, but I know I like what you're doing, but I feel like I know you.
Yeah.
Because I watch you every day.
Correct.
By the way, can I get a follow back, bro?
Absolutely. I haven't followed you back?
No.
Oh, dude.
I felt there was a little
No
there was
worries.
a moment there.
Listen, we shook hands where this is now real. So absolutely, man.
There'll be a hug and embrace at the end.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I'm Sicilian. What are you? What's your background?
Italian, Irish, and German.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nice. I actually have. You can't see it right now because I tried to buzz it. I'm trying to get on your level with the beard. Typically I'm like, dude, how does he line it up? And I'm trying to line it up today, and like it went like this.
Yeah.
So I'm like, fuck it, now I got to start all over.
Yeah.
But my beard is actually red.
Is it really?
So I was like, this is great. We got this inverted thing going. But no.
Oh my God, I would have been so impressed.
So when
you totally fucked that up.
I really fucked that up.
Having said that, I haven't shaved to skin probably in over a decade. So so I don't. It's something that's completely foreign to me. I hate not having facial hair.
Really? Doesn't itch?
Not at all. I think when you get to a certain stage, it's just there.
I think you're right before the itchy stage.
This is actually long right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After that, you're going to start to...
But, I'm getting a haircut later, so, got to tighten everything up.
When I think about you, the first thing that comes to my mind is very disciplined, right? And I assume that goes for every aspect of your life, because again, I feel like I know you, watching you on TV 24/7. So it's like
the Kardashian effect,
right? Yeah. It's like gym. You seem to have an excellent work-life balance, whatever that means to whoever else, like family, children, etc. Just relentless drive and ambition within work. I'm curious to know, like, your background, where you came from, like, if you can give me the quick kind of rundown. Like, you've been in the business 18 years. That's a lot, bro. Yeah. Like, you're a local Long Island guy? You grew up out here?
Yeah, so I'll give you kind of, the quick and dirty. So grew up in Huntington.
Okay.
Went to college in Arizona, so that was kind of my first time, aside from snowboard camp in Mount Hood, Oregon before that, first time really kind of venturing out of Long Island.
Where'd you go to school?
University of Arizona.
I heard it was free. I heard it's bananas, bro.
Oh my God.
I heard it's like...
To anybody listening that went to U of A, please comment. Bear down, by the way.
Is that the one, Lake Havasu?
Yeah.
Did you go to Lake Havasu?
Of course. And Memorial Day weekend, Lake Havasu.
How old are you?
42.
Okay, so we're right there. I'm 39.
Okay.
We're right there.
Yeah.
Bro, MTV, Lake Havasu. All I wanted to do was be there. You were there. You were that guy.
I was there. Yeah. I mean, so I was a DJ, so and a club promoter. Always up in the scene.
Yeah.
Ran Hampton's share houses. After college and stuff like that. Do you know
Christian Arciello?
I don't.
No.
I don't think so.
You know the guys from Catch? Any of those guys?
Yeah, of
Came
course.
from Hofstra?
Yeah. All those guys. Yeah.
Small world.
Eugene and Joey Angelo and that whole crew. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm still heavily involved in the restaurant world. Based on what I do. And now that restaurant world is, hospitality is converted to fitness, which is obviously also what I do. So Eugene and company are Rumble Boxing.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, Lake Havasu, if anybody knows me, there's nothing that surprises me or shocking me. I was considered probably one of the craziest guys at Arizona, so I've calmed down quite a bit.
Marriage and kids and a little bit of age will do that to you.
Oh, absolutely. And just growing up, maturing. But I couldn't think of a better college experience. The people that I met there were just, unbelievable. I have amazing friends from college today. I'll be in LA with a lot of them next weekend for Memorial Day weekend, so I'm super pumped to see them. And it's funny because as a result of doing that, the country became a lot smaller to me, right? So I have friends all over the place, not just on the East Coast per se, and that ties into my national advisory work. I have contact. The world of business is about networking, right? It's who you know, not necessarily what you know, and everybody knows money. And I heard that at a very young age, and I've spent most of my life networking and just meeting as many people as possible.
Smart.
And that's what social media is to me, right? It's basically shaking hands at scale. So, so I get back from Arizona, and unfortunately, my mom has cancer. She passes away. My family was in the automobile business, so I grew up not wanting for anything, so to speak. Had a great.
Me too. I was in the car business.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Great childhood. Amazing family. Everything that anybody could ask for. And when my mom passed away, I was probably maybe a year and a half or so out of college. And I decided before that I wasn't going to go into the family business. My father was, dealing obviously with his wife being sick.
Yeah. And
when she ultimately passed, he kind of went off the deep end, moved to Florida, got remarried, and that any abrupt kind of fast thing that when you're dealing with tragedy, that just kind of changed the dynamic of the family. So for me, I was 24 and. Again, I had a tendency to just go out and party and DJ and be up all night and sleep, half the day essentially. And I knew that if I didn't decide what I was going to do with the rest of my life at that stage, I was probably not going to have a very long life. So that's where the discipline comes from. So it was literally me kind of one day waking up and being like, dude, if you don't get your shit together now and stop feeling sorry for yourself, which your mom obviously wouldn't want, you're not going to amount to shit, or it's going to be, it's going to be a rough road ahead.
It's interesting that you say that because maybe 2 weeks ago, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, if I look back, and this was I don't have kids, I'm not married, so I'm never in a position to tell anybody how to raise their kids. Right?
Sure.
But I was just thinking about children in the future and kids that I know and friends that I have kids, and I'm like, people work really hard to shelter their children from emotionally painful situations.
Sure.
Right? At the same time, when I look back on my 39 years, the truly gut-wrenching emotional situations that I experienced in my life were where the greatest growth came from.
Facts. Absolutely. Right? Yeah, of course.
So it's interesting so that and I always like to get in people's heads to kind of see what drives them, what makes them tick. It's fascinating for me, and I respect that. So I guess, and you can go one of two ways. You could be someone like yourself who is in the middle of, extreme emotional pain. You lose your mother.
Of course.
There's nothing worse than that.
Yeah.
Let's
literally,
at a very young age. And then you could either have said, I'm going to party, get wasted, and just become a mess, right? Or I can use it as a springboard to propel the rest of my life, which is what you did. Totally.
And, it wasn't an easy decision. I started going down the first path and got myself in trouble, just got to a point where I had to make that choice, right?
Yeah.
And I hit rock bottom.
Was there a moment?
There was.
Do you remember the actual moment?
Yeah, man. Using your T-shirt as a pillow in jail is not. That was the moment, man. So for me,
wow.
It was. I hit rock bottom. And speaking of Hempstead, I spent 2 nights in Hempstead, which is not for the faint of heart.
You must have gotten. What was it? You got busted on a Friday?
I got busted on a Friday, and I was such an arrogant, cocky asshole that they made an example of me.
Wow.
And they should have, honestly, because the reality is, looking back at it, there was nothing for me to lose, and that's how I was walking around. Because honestly, at that point, I didn't care if I was dead or alive. Facts, couldn't care less. Which is a very, very interesting and scary position to be in because, you know, my mother was my North Star.
Yeah.
And regardless of if I did anything stupid in the past, she would look at me and that was it, you know, and I was back on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
So without having her in my life or even the presence of her, I like started to go off the deep end. Seriously, yeah.
Is she like, there are these people that just have like, they don't have to yell, they don't have to do anything, they just have like a polarizing look. She was one of those people that she'll just look at you and be like, you're like,
you know, all my friends, she was the second mother to like everybody in my life. So she was just one of these people that anybody who ever met her knew she was like an angel. Seriously.
Was she Italian?
She was German.
Okay.
Yeah, she was German. So she was, you know, anybody's life that she touched, she was just one of those people that everybody knew she was special. Nice. So I was super fortunate to have that into my, you know, early 20s.
Yeah.
And then having that ripped from you is a very, you know, it's like having that blanket as a kid that gives you comfort and then it being lost and, you know, a kid freaking out. But times a million. So for me, you know, I'm not ashamed of anything that I've done.
No, you shouldn't be.
You know, it's why I am who I am. And it's also why I can enjoy spending time with the CEO of a major company that's a client of mine, or literally the people that come through and clean the office at 8 p.m. at night, and I have the same amount of respect for.
Well, and also just understanding the value of life and realizing how short or how long, you know, when you're budgeting for your day, dealing with your children, et cetera, right? We all want to go like 150 miles an hour. Like I have this vision, private equity fund. That's part of the reason why I'm not married, part of the reason I don't have any kids.
Sure.
For you to achieve what you have and then balance that, you have that work-life balance is got to be difficult. It's not easy.
Yeah, it's not easy, but I look at it as, you know, I'm at a point now where, you know, I've developed and built this lifestyle for myself where, you know, I'm able to, the first thing I do when I get up, you know, I'm working from the minute that I wake up, getting a workout in.
What time do you wake up? Are you like a 4:30
Hell
a.m. guy?
No.
Right.
No, dude. Based on like the history I told you, I basically used to sleep, you know, all day and be up all night. Mm-hmm. So for me, early is like 6:15.
That's still pretty early, man.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was thinking about this morning. You know, there's so many people that are like so proud that they wake up at like 4:30 a.m. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, what drives me nuts in life are people that are busy and not productive. I don't give a shit when you wake up. Yeah. I don't give a shit when you go to sleep. What the fuck did you do today?
That's true.
Right? So, like, that's what drives me nuts, man. I literally accomplish in a day what I think most people accomplish in a week. And maybe a month, right?
So I can learn from this because, like, this whole thing for me is about, like, I like to bring cool people on who I want to get to know and talk to and kind of, like, understand what they do. So I know I'm good at and I know what I'm suck at, right? Yeah. I'm an idea guy, I'm a salesman, I'm a money raiser, I'm a let's go and do it guy. But I lack organizational skills, and I understand that that's important, right? So like to your point, you hire or develop what you lack. So how regimented like is your day? Do you like I had Juan Baronecci on the other day and he's like, my whole life is set up in 30-minute blocks.
No.
He's like, I'm curious to know how because you're doing a lot of shit. Like how do you manage that?
I'm an amazing multitasker, right? So I'm an amazing multitasker. Any task that I have to accomplish in a day is here, and I won't go to sleep until they're all done. So I don't give a shit what time they're done, unless I have a deadline specifically, and if I do, I'd never miss a deadline, right? But I also have an amazing team that I've built over the last 18 years, and a lot of those people have come over to Sabre. Sabre is now 8 years. So, you know, I'm fortunate to have a lot of people that I worked with closely before I started my own company and attracted them over. So
that kind of like, to bring us back, right? To bring us back, it's like you're 24 years old, mom passed, sleeping in a jail cell with your T-shirt.
Yeah. Humbling
moment.
To say the least, yeah.
When does real estate come into the picture, and then how does that evolve?
Yeah, so one of my best friend's brothers was working at Breslin.
Okay.
And I was in the city, working in the city, playing in the city. I had a job for a company called 24/7 Media, which was online advertising.
Okay.
And interesting, like it was a job that I took because I'm not so tech savvy, because I wanted to learn more about it.
Smart, which is what your 20s are really about.
Which is what I'm always doing,
yeah.
you know. So I'm like I'm just a student of life, you know. So, and I never look at anything as a waste of time, right? So anything, which is again kind of like what makes me, you know, me. And as I get older and achieve more and become quote unquote more successful, I still operate that way. Like I'm not too good for anything, you know, and that's the only way I think you could be good at, you know. I grew my company from scratch because I understand how to do literally everything that needs to get done. Somebody calls in sick, I can do it as good as them.
Yeah.
So,
you ever read the book, the EMyth Revisited?
I have not, but I'm aware of it. Yeah.
So yeah, franchise. So it's like everyone has three personalities. They say they have the worker mentality, the manager mentality, and entrepreneur mentality.
Yeah.
They say regardless of which business you set up, you should design it like a franchise. Going back to the car thing, I was fortunate enough to realize this in real life. You know Mako on TV?
Sure, of course.
Mako?
Yeah.
So I owned the one in Hempstead.
Oh, nice.
For 10 years, from the time I was 23 until I transitioned into real estate,
Yeah.
34. So I got to see that model, and then I'm reading that book, and they're like, basically what you should do is know how to do every job,
Yep.
and then write a manual and hire to replace yourself.
Yep.
Which is exactly what you innately know how to do.
You want to work on your business, not in your business.
Yes.
You want to get to a point where you can do that, right? Because I am an entrepreneur. I get, you know, what keeps me excited in life is learning businesses and understanding why and how they thrive. And today I've grown into an advisor for founders and entrepreneurs.
Nice.
You know, for the most part, that's what I would describe my job as, essentially. So, you know, I have to. What makes me good at the tenant rep side of the business is anytime I'm working with a company like Starbucks Coffee, who I've represented for 15 years, you know, I literally think about Starbucks Coffee's development as if I'm Howard Schultz. Like, you know, and when I'm with a client, they're my only client, right? They don't know that I work with other companies.
Which is why
per
they
se.
value you the way.
Yeah, of course, but it's also because I know I can't be really good at what I do and add the value that I need to add to that company if I'm not all in, right? So I have the ability, again, to multitask and also change hats and basically act as if, again, you know, when I'm focused on one company, I'm thinking about with Starbucks, AM, coffee, traffic, access, visibility, parking, right? And then I switch gears to a different client that's totally different, PM, whatever, and I can do it as well as I can, you know, the Starbucks thing, right? So over the years, I've been able to just adopt and adapt and, you know, become really good at focusing on the growth of other companies as if I own them. That's how I approach everything. And, you know, to get back to how I got into real estate, so, you know, it was through a friend's brother. And at the time, you know, he was at Breslin. Breslin owns 9 million square feet of shopping centers, primarily Long Island. I went to meet Ken Breslin, the founder of the company, the founder of the brokerage business. His father, Wilbur Breslin, pioneer of retail real estate. You know, built the first front field parking shopping center on Long Island. Like,
wow.
He's just a pioneer, right? So,
How many years ago was that?
he's in the business 50 years.
Okay.
So yeah, 50 plus years at this point. So, so that was, I also at the same time was starting to look at other companies. I was living in the city, working in the city, so I went to meet with the, you know, the big folks, the Cushmans, the CBs, the JLLs. And then after meeting with Breslin, I realized that there's a lack of talent on Long Island. Okay, so I'm not the smartest guy by any means, don't claim to, and quite honestly don't want to be, because I've fired more smart people than I have hardworking people. So I met Kenny, and he said, you know, we'd love to have you. I said, that's great. You know, what will you pay me? He's like, what do you mean pay you? You know, you're 1099. We'll give you a desk, a phone, and a computer, and you know, you're on your way. I was making $42,000 at that time. This was 2000. 2001. So I was making
Crazy
good
time too. Like,
crazy time.
A lot of shit was about to go down. Like, you don't even know. Like,
I
you know
lost
now,
my
but-
mom, and then like right into 9/11, bro.
Yeah,
It was-
recession.
Oh,
Like,
forget it.
everyone's like
terrible.
city craziness.
Terrible.
Like,
Crazy. So that's why I ended up, you know, really wanting to move out of the city. And, you know, dude, after 9/11.
were you in the city during 9/11?
Yeah, I was in the city, living in the city. I watched the plane fly, the second plane fly into the Trade Center from the 32nd floor of 32nd and Broadway, and it was just
I see
terrible.
you going to that place right now. I just
Oh my!
I just saw you
I
look up,
literally
I'm like,
did.
He's there right now.
I literally did, and you know what? Like I ran down. I took the elevator down from the building, the office building I was in, 24/7 Media, which is a few blocks from Penn Station. I ran straight down the street, straight down into Penn Station, and nobody knew what happened yet. So the people coming out of Penn Station. So mind you, it's 8:30 a.m. Right? I had my coffee at my desk, ready to go. And I take off after seeing what happened. I'm like, yo, man, the city's getting... This is the first of many,
it's
right?
Armageddon.
It was crazy. So I ran down into Penn Station. Everybody's coming up. And I see a friend of mine coming up from his morning commute who works at my company. He's like, where the hell are you going? I'm like, dude, just fucking leave. And I took off. And I literally was one of the only people getting onto a train. And it was a very... bizarre, everything slowed down. It was nuts. And then all of a sudden it was like myself and like 3 other people on the train, and I'm just waiting for the doors to close, and it was a sea of people trying to get onto the train, and it was just chaos from that moment. I'll never forget, a fireman gets on the train, and the train packs out. We're like the last train that they let out of Penn.
Wow.
We get out of Penn, and I watched the first tower fall.
Wow.
It was insane.
From as you're coming out to Long Island?
Yeah, we're literally all looking at it.
Yeah.
And, seeing the smoke and the fire and everything
quiet
else.
on the train?
Dead quiet, and the fucking tower drops.
Holy shit.
And it was the craziest thing I've ever seen with my own eyes. And from that point, then the fireman's radio goes off, and the Pentagon was hit. It was insane. But I mean, what a crazy time.
That is nutty.
Nutty.
So, did you go back into the city, or was that you like, I'm done with it?
I went back into the city, and there were anthrax and bomb scares in our building literally every day, sometimes 2 a day.
Were you around any of where was your office? Wasn't anywhere close?
I was on 32nd Broadway, right by Empire State Building, Penn Station.
Was that stuff blown all over the place?
There was just. Do you remember all the anthrax scares? Do you remember being in the city? It was so evident, I'll never forget, after I took the train out of the city, right? I stayed in Long Island for probably 2 or 3 nights. Okay. And then I went back to the city because we had friends that were missing in the trade center. So
did you lose friends in it?
Yeah. Wow. Not close friends, but friends of friends.
Yeah.
And, I had friends that were thank God, that got out. Yeah. And, changed their lives. A lot of them moved to the West Coast. Right after that, just changed their entire life, which is not surprising. So I went back in, and I'll never forget, the armory was set up for missing people. And, so we went and we, flyered and, walked around, and it was crazy because the city streets were closed, and they were just military vehicles and fucking tanks coming down Park Avenue. And I wish I had I wish and I don't wish that I had photos of, from that time. Yeah. I'd rather not look at that, and just kind of remember it and just, accept it for what it is. But, it was just it was like a movie set, every day.
It's just crazy.
And after that point, I'm moving out of the city, and that was it.
Wow. Yeah. Again, it just seems like as I get older, most massive changes in people's life come from an extreme experience of some kind.
Yeah.
And there's so now I'm at the point where I kind of not that I want it, but I welcome it. When something like that happens, I sit in this and I'm like, all right, something's going to let me really feel this.
Sure.
Because something awesome is going to happen on the other side of this, pain or crazy experience or whatever.
It's a lot of people refer to it as a hurdle moment, right? Okay. So everybody, it's funny when you meet high functioning people, there's typically something. There's typically an event, some experience,
or multiple events that change course.
Of course. And if you were on my podcast, I'd ask you now what yours was, but I don't know if that's my place. So.
There's no rules on the Handsome show, baby. Just go.
It's up to you. I basically indirectly asked you if you want to answer. That's.
What's my hurdle moment?
Yeah. What for you was that moment that.
There's a bunch of them. So I guess my biggest, most recent moment is to make this kind of short.
Yeah.
I was sort of married once.
Okay.
Right. Actually, no. There's two real quick moments. I was in business. I owned the Mako. I was there for 10 years, and I was in it, but like, my dad was my partner in it, and some craziness happened with the business that I was unaware of. And I was kind of like thrown to the fire, and I had to deal with it on my own, and I was totally unaware of what was going on. And at that moment, I realized that nobody, whether it's your parents or people you looked up to, whatever it is, their reality is not your reality.
Sure.
Right? And they don't know everything. Because there's certain people in my life that I would look up to, and I would say, if they thought it was a good idea or a bad idea, mentors and things, I'd be like, all right, I'm not going to do it. Because I always come with these crazy ideas.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
I want to build this, I want to build that, and like, nah, I don't like it. So it was stifling to a certain point. But when that happened, and there were certain people around me that were pushing me in a certain direction, I realized, you know what? They're not necessarily smarter than me or know more, whatever it is.
Sure.
And they did the best they can, but their reality as a 50-year-old, 70-year-old, whatever age they were, is not my reality as a 30-year-old. So I'm like, now let me take control of my own life.
Sure.
And then that kind of fire started to build.
Yeah.
And then I was in real estate. I've been in real estate for 5 years. This is my 6th year.
Okay.
So, and I wanted to flip houses, and everyone was like, kid, you can't do it. Fast forward, last year I did 97 houses. The year before I did 67 houses.
Amazing.
Basically, biggest flippers on Long Island.
Amazing.
But in the middle of that, I sort of got married.
Okay.
Right? And when I say sort of, what I mean is I had a crazy wedding. I didn't bring the marriage license. I was with this girl for 7 years. I didn't bring the marriage license because we didn't make it part of the ceremony. My CFO, who's sitting right over there, got ordained as a minister to marry us, right?
This is good stuff.
To make this essentially a long story short, we got married, went on the honeymoon, came back. She went out with her girlfriends because she loves to salsa dance, right? I don't know if you know this, but I was Latino in a previous life. I think Dominican. But, so she went out to dance with her girlfriend. It's 7 a.m. I can't find her. I'm like, where are you? She calls me, hysterical crying. She comes home. She says, I don't want to be married, and I think we should break up. A week after the wedding, right? A day back from the honeymoon. Been together 7 years. No signs of anything crazy. I'm in that moment where I look around and I'm saying to my friends and my parents, I'm like, yo, what did I miss? I had to miss something, right? What did I miss? And they're like, we didn't see it. So I've struggled with that and finally made my peace with that over the last couple of years of like, what the hell happened?
Sure.
But in that moment, so here's the interesting part. That was my 3rd year in the business. So first year I bought 10 houses. Second year I bought 11. Almost got married, almost got divorced. We stayed together because I'm like, what's going on? 3-4 months down the road, I find a picture on a computer. I find out she was cheating on me.
Okay.
Right?
Then it adds up.
That adds up like, it's like 6-8 months past that.
Yeah.
So now I'm in the 3rd year.
Which is probably therapeutic in a way where you're like, okay, now I'm not crazy. This is what was going on.
Well, it wasn't. Because here's what women have the ability to do, or maybe people. I can't just say women. You ever been in a situation where you're like, I know I got you, but they're so good at being like, they would say to you, like, what do you mean? Like, they make you feel like you're crazy almost.
Yeah, of course.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. But I think at a certain point, you just, I'm pretty good at this isn't right. I'm fucking out. That's that because on a certain level, it doesn't matter what somebody says to you. It's just, I didn't sign up for this. And
of course.
I wish you nothing but the best. Have a great life.
But I guess
that's kind of I hear what I wasn't in the situation, so
So everybody's wired differently. And a thing that I learned in that moment is what you think or say you're going to do in a certain situation and what you actually do or how you react are very different. But the point of that is, so we're staying together. I find that I'm like, what the hell? I come home like right after that, and it was July 28th. We had lived together in Long Beach, and her name was on the lease because I was doing so many deals. I'm like, let me keep stuff out of my name for refis and all that. Yeah. She's like, I have to talk to you. She's like, I'm leaving you, and I didn't re-sign the lease like I told you 2 weeks ago, and we have to be out in 2 days. So I'm just like, that's it. Like, we're just like,
of course,
explodes. So to that point, that year, so that's almost halfway through the year, a little more, I bought 10 houses. When she left in the 5 months after that, I bought 30 houses in the next 5 months. And the next year I bought 67 houses. So that crazy, emotional, just gut-wrenching disaster propelled me to where I am and where I'm going.
Yeah, which is very similar to what happened to me when I lost my mom. It was and what catapulted me to where I am. Because if I wasn't working, I was concerned about where I'd be spending my time and energy, right? So I literally got to a point where I would literally just work. And by the way, I loved it. So I just became so passionate and obsessed with what I do that, I just think it was tough for, if I was pursuing anything, fortunately based on the fact that I took I started completely from the bottom with a desk, a phone, and a computer, and just the rest was on me. And, love me or hate me, if you're in my business, you kind of have to respect me because nobody handed me shit.
Which is the best part of it.
Yeah, which is great, and which is also why I didn't go into my family business, right? Yeah. So, for me, I also knew my dad and I would never be able to work together, and I just thought it was best for us to be father and son, because I just know it wouldn't have gone well. So we're both very,
we probably
stubborn and thank God that never happened. But I chose the more difficult path, which today is amazing. But 18 years later,
it's the struggle. People see you as Saber doing what you're doing, the technology, the social media, the nationwide exposure, the huge national companies, but they don't see the 18 years of shit.
No,
they don't see the blood, the sweat, the tears. There are definitely moments in your day and your life where you're just like, what the fuck? What is going on? I'm sure there's slight moments of doubt, but people like us, we're always seeing that goal in the future.
Yeah. You know what it is though? It's for me, the same way for you where, people would impose their opinions and views on you. When I took a job that was fully commission based, no health insurance, my father was like, what are you doing? You're crazy.
It's outside of most people's realities.
It is, and I get that, and to each their own. But I did sacrifice a lot. I went from a nice salary as a young person to nothing, and I moved into a garage apartment in Medford and drove to Garden City every day, and I straight up bootstrapped everything I've done. And what I think is interesting is that I grew up, like I said, I came from a wealthy family, so it was basically having experienced the better things in life, up until, like I said, I graduated college, and then all of that being ripped away with zero support. So it was a little bit. It was a lot of it out of necessity, right? So a lot of people will say to me, Jay, how did you do what you've done? And out of necessity, dude. I wanted to one day to be able to have these nice things, and you always want better for your kids, right? Yeah. So for me, that's my why, right? So I get up in the morning to try to provide for my kids, and I'm gonna put them, into a position to win if they so choose to get into a specific business or whatever it is. But I'll set them up to not have to go through what I went through. So that's basically the.
So I'm thinking a bunch of things right now. Yeah. I'm similar in the sense that my parents were absolutely amazing. Yeah. My father owned successful businesses. I had a very privileged, easy life. I would argue too easy. I say to my parents,
me too, yeah.
I'm like, you guys gave me too much.
Yeah.
I wish you hadn't, because I actually feel like it's a handicap. Right?
Sure.
But most people in our situation, or most people on Long Island that are relatively well off, it's a very affluent place.
Yeah.
Right? You don't find a lot of people that have the fire. So I'm curious to know, I'm in a similar situation to you. For you, how do you grow up affluent but have the hunger of a guy that never had anything?
I have a hunger, that's beyond a guy who never had anything, I think, because, at the end of the day, it's really weird because I couldn't give a shit about what other people think. And I think you could see that, through my social media presence and just the fact that I'm real, right? So if you're meeting me, you're not meeting me who's showing up to do your podcast, and putting on a different persona. You're meeting me, and I'm gonna say whatever I feel like saying, to the point of not having a filter, right? Because I'm myself in every aspect of my life, and the same way with my kids. And you mentioned it earlier. A lot of people want to shelter their kids. I'm heavy into hip hop. I love music. I thought that I was a gangster when I was younger, type of. Listen, I'm from Long Island. This is not shocking, right? You went to Hofstra, so I don't have to explain it to you. But literally, my one of my sons is like, he raps, and like he and I hang out like we're the same age, and I don't know what age that is, but
that's awesome though.
I would have it no other way, but it's like you want what's better for them, but I also don't want to shelter them. My whole family, their kids are all in private schools, and for me, I think it's very important for my kids to understand all realities and not be sheltered to, just one type of person, so to speak. I think that, if you're elite and you want for nothing and you're never going to want for nothing, fine.
Yeah.
But I think that people that grow up in that environment, a very sterile environment, if they ever are faced with a reality that I was, they're fucked.
They lose it. That's what I'm saying. It's like sending something out to be slaughtered.
Absolutely. Listen, this world is not... It's not pretty, man.
No.
And if you... at the end of the day, nobody fucking cares. Okay? And you have to realize that at a relatively young age to be successful. Mm-hmm. If you're... focused on what other people think, right? And focused on this person's gonna, if I do the right thing by them, they're gonna give me this opportunity. Dude, you're gonna be waiting a long time. And maybe you do get lucky, and you're dealing with people that want to help you and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's, nobody cares, and you have to be focused on how to better yourself. And that's what I spend my day doing, right?
I have a very important question. You have 2 boys, right?
2 boys, 7 and 4.
This is a hugely important question for me. How did you get the boys? Meaning, if I have kids one day, I want to have boys, right? So I need you to bring yourself, like you were just visualing the 9/11 thing. I want you to bring yourself back to the moment of conception.
I'll tell you how.
And I need to know what I got to do to get it done.
It's very easy.
Right.
Have the ultimate respect for women.
And that's how you have boys?
Yeah.
It's not deep into the left or think about decapitating somebody or no?
It's the guys who treat girls like shit all the way through high school and college and take advantage and so on and so forth that typically end up with all girls. That's what everybody. Oh, then what? Why?
No,
if you're
so many dickhead friends that dogged women out, ran trains on them, and have boys. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. It's all right. That's my experience. Okay, but
were you a little drunk?
Well, think about this because everybody says if you're like a super player, right, and you did exactly what you just said.
Oh yeah.
Everyone is like, oh, you're gonna have girls.
No.
You're totally gonna have girls.
I have a friend, right? He actually came up. I'm the Handsome Homebuyer, right? He came up with that. He came up with that thing, right? He's 6'3", super good looking, got a 12-inch hammer, legit. I've seen it. It was an accident, but whatever. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Really good looking guy. Every girl loved this guy. He ran trains on everybody, not in a bad way. This kid just boys. Bro, you're dropping insane nuggets on the podcast right now, but you let me down with that one a little bit.
You know what?
99 out of 100 ain't bad. Don't worry.
Well, because I told you about the filter, right? Before we started the podcast, I told you about the filter.
We'll talk about this offline.
I'm just I'm gonna stick with my answer, man. And listen, one day when you're at my stage and you have the 2 boys, if you get there, you'll understand. I'll leave it at that.
What's going to happen is...
You don't know what it's like to be a parent until you are one, right? You don't know...
100%.
So I love people that haven't done that... First off, I have no interest in giving me advice, right?
Okay.
Like people who have not achieved, in my mind, shit.
Okay.
Giving me advice on how I should do things, right? The same way that I think it's interesting that, people... And this isn't... I'm just going off on a tangent. I think that people... Again, like to impose their views on. It's funny until you have a kid. You have no idea. So it's just funny because there are people who like will talk to you about parenting, and you're like, dude, you don't have a fucking. Are you really having this conversation with me? When the fuck were you up at 3 a.m. cleaning up vomit, and still had to get up at 7 to do whatever you needed to do, whatever. You know what I'm saying?
My girlfriend's watching this, being like, "Don't tell him that. Don't tell him that."
Whatever, dude. I'm keeping it real. Aside from that last answer.
Well, this is what's gonna happen, and I hope you don't mind.
Yeah.
When I'm at that moment where I'm there, I'm gonna put the call into you. I'm gonna be like, Jay, I need to know the real answer.
Yo, my boy that works at a car wash once told me it has to do with spoons under a pillow. I'll just leave it at that, So something in his nationality, it literally, it had to do with spoons under a pillow. I have no idea, and he would totally, because he was trying to get me to go for the girl. So he would be like, you got to do this.
Did you want a girl? Did you not care?
Dude, I couldn't be happier with my 2 little maniacs. I mean, I feel like you're blessed when when you're fortunate enough to have children, right?
Yeah,
so a big fear of mine was always not being able to have kids. Like as a kid, I'd be like, you know what? Really? Yeah, I was something weird as a kid that I was like, I hope one day I'm able to have kids.
Wow.
Yeah. So
why?
I don't know. Just something that I thought about, that I thought that, I think it's an amazing gift, like I said. So I just, it was something that always kind of was in the back of my mind from a young age was, I don't know if I'll ever have that gift. I don't know where it came from. I have no idea. And I didn't think about it much until we just got on this topic. But I felt that way as a younger person that was not even remotely at a stage of wanting to have kids. Listen, man, I love being a dad, so I would love to be a dad to a girl. I just think that I'd have to give her away around 12. So I didn't have to deal with,
that block. Yeah, that's the thing. Like,
exactly.
Boys seem to be easier. Like, maybe they beat the hell out of each other and fight for like a certain time, but like long term, I think they're easier.
Anybody I think on the planet would agree with you. Yeah. So I'll leave it at that. I'm absolutely blessed. My wife would love to have a girl, yesterday.
Our shooting back to real estate for a second. I wanted to know.
Is this a real estate podcast?
I don't even know. I tell you, there's no rules, man.
I know, that's what I love.
I don't even know what's going to come out
next. I love
next.
it. I know, this is great.
What, I want to kind of know, like, you're doing huge things with Saber, man.
Thank you. I
Mazel
appreciate
tov
it.
to that. I
Thank
love
you.
the way you're doing it. I love how you're different than everybody else, which is super cool. What's the future look like, man?
Yeah, man. So, for me, it's interesting because I got into real estate. Again, like, I always had an interest in commercial real estate, but it's not like I grew up saying I want to be in commercial real estate, right? It happened, again, at a funky stage based on a tragedy and, a lot of changes going on. And when I kind of learned that people owned shopping centers, I was like, wait a minute, that's crazy. Like, a person owns that? That's nuts. I want to do that.
And he's just like us. She's just like us.
Exactly, which was crazy, right? So for me, though, as you could see by the company, it's like I'm not solely here to do real estate. I'm a creative.
And the cool thing about this is my perception, your kind of business is your life, in the sense that what you're passionate about in life is who you represent and deal with on a daily basis.
Today, but it's like you have to do things that you don't want to do to get to a point where you can do things that you actually want to do, right? So that's been an evolution, and that's not to say that I don't want to. I brought Chipotle to Long Island and rolled out their strategy, and that was awesome. That was kind of,
that's sick.
Yeah, it was awesome, and that was one of my first experiences where I found a company. Actually, while I was in LA, and discovered them, and was like dead set on bringing them to New York, and I didn't realize that was possible until I did it. You know what I mean? But I had this blind, optimism again, where I just. But here's the real secret, and if I'm being honest, I will do all the work up front. Mm-hmm. So when I sit down with a potential client, they're like, "Did you do all of this just to sit down to like have a discussion about possibly working together?"
Because nobody.
I'm like, "Yeah, of course I did." They're like, "Holy shit! Like, I could only imagine what you'll do for us if we hire you." Yeah. So, and the reason that I got really good at the work was because I was doing that nonstop for every company. Some of them would hire me, some of them wouldn't hire me, and I got really, really good at it. And that's how I built my company. We're very good at what we do. The world is changing though, right?
Very fast.
And that's where, to kind of circle back to your question, the future for us is, again, working with companies that are looking to expand and grow and scale. Okay, so it used to be, again, when I started in the business, all I knew was Long Island, and it was my backyard, and I would basically speak to a company, and I would say, are you guys looking to come to Long Island? And they would be like, no. I'd say, okay, well, when do you think? Maybe never. And I'm like, okay, off to the next one. Mm-hmm. As I started to do really well in a small geography, I started to realize that I needed to expand, right? So on many levels, right? So expand in my own knowledge, right? So learn beyond Long Island. So mm-hmm. I started to make a name for myself the first 5 years in the business after Starbucks and Chipotle and several other kind of high profile accounts. And then all the big guys came knocking. So the CBs, the Cushmans, the JLLs. Long story short, 5 years into working at Breslin, I ended up taking a deal to go to CB. Got a big signing bonus, health insurance. And mind you, I'm 29 now, and I'm like, no health insurance. I'm a cowboy. I'm like rogue. Couldn't give a shit, doing the craziest shit, snowboarding like the back bowls at Vail with no health insurance. Couldn't care less.
No helmet, no nothing.
Nothing. And which is why I knew I needed to like settle down, right? So I did that, and I saw that as an opportunity. That was my grad school, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, I became the top producer at Breslin, which was a company that pioneered what we do. And a lot of the who's who in the industry have come out of Breslin to the point where it's referred to as Breslin University. Yeah. So the fact that I was the top producer at that company at 29 was not a happy thing for me. It was a sad thing. It was like, I'm wasting my time if I'm already at the top of the game somewhere, because I should not be. Somebody sub 30 should not be the top producer, in my opinion. Like, yeah,
well, I think
it just meant it was time to graduate for me.
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
Move on.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So I guess I want to close out with this. There's a lot of people that see what you do, and they're like, you can make a lot of money. It's sexy, all the great things, right? They don't see the 18-year grind. Sure. But there's a lot of people that are sitting there. There's a realtor sitting there who's like, I love to do commercial real estate, but how the hell would I ever get a Starbucks or a this or a that? Like, what do you say to that person?
If you're not specialized in exactly that, right, which is understanding how to design rollout strategies for companies and executing them, you're never going to get a client of that magnitude. And so that's one answer, right? Okay. Which is reality. Okay, so if I never decided I was going to go into this niche of the real estate business, I would never have developed the skill set, learned from other people that do that, and it's a very niche business. There are not many people who do it. So, and there's even less people who actually do it really well.
So I'm take it from like a totally green standpoint. Yeah. Like, they've never really done a deal before, but they're like, they have this vision of you and greatness, and they're like, how the hell could I ever be on that guy's level? Whether it's an office, it doesn't matter. Like,
which kind? Easy. So, sure. So go work for a company and hopefully find a mentor that's really, really good at whatever it is that you want to be good at one day, right? Yeah. So, and Gary Vee talks about like people should be paying people like myself to work for them as opposed to me paying them to work for me. And I think that's an interesting mindset, and I think that Gary's onto something with that, because maybe these parents who are paying for their kids to get into colleges should actually pay high level people that are in an industry that they want their kids to go into. They'll probably learn a lot more, and it's not as scummy. But again, it's all about, you gotta, if you want something bad enough, you gotta just fucking go all in, right? And but the challenge is in our niche, just to go back to what we actually do, it's very challenging to even get to the table for a pitch for a company like Starbucks in a specific geography, because there's going to be 3 or 4 best in class companies that they're gonna interview. Yeah. It's very simple. They're not interviewing somebody that's not from a known entity, which is why when I started my company, it was almost psychotic. It was, to have the ambition that I have, to invest the money that I have, borrow the money and invest the money that I have, I just, again, it's back to the like failure's not an option. Everybody that was a principal of a competing firm was, calling me, trying to talk me out of it because they knew I'd fucking pull it off. Not because they, actually thought that it was a bad idea. It was a bad idea for them.
Yeah. I mean, basically, people, the moral of the story is don't have a plan B because plan A should be the only option. Failure is an option, and it all comes down to, are you willing to bleed for it? How bad do you really want it? Yo, you're the fucking man.
You're the
Appreciate
man.
you taking the time out.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for playing therapist for me.
Of course.
And getting that out.
I'm going to follow you on Instagram now.
Please do. If you have a house or something you want to sell, just call me. 516-777-SOLD. That's a wrap.
Orgulloso estoy de mi herencia judía. Benjamin Lev Ben Shlomo, cuando me llaman a la torre, así me llamo.